and welcome everybody to our last kind of formal discussion meeting of the Continuing Education and Certification Task Force. Pam and Robin are going to be absent today, and I think Jennifer will be joining us shortly. So with that, I thought I would just kind of go through what we talked about we would do today, which is review the information, look at our next steps, and be able to move forward with those critical parts of discussion, further discussion with our different advisory councils and the commission. So if that's okay with everybody, I'm just going to forge ahead so that we can use our time as well as we possibly can today. And I think just to kind of say too that with next steps, I'm hoping to engage more with you via email, and just being able to exchange some drafts and get some information back and forth from us as we need to over the next couple of weeks. But based on our conversations on Monday, we included the word demonstrate, so promote continuing education and demonstrate its impact for quality library services as a goal. And then it sounded like we had good consensus around the wording for this third goal. And so I just want to kind of check in and see if we're all kind of in the same place that we were on Monday, with pretty high comfort with the proposed program goals. All right. Okay. Yeah, and you can give a thumbs up or however you would like to give a nod or whatever. And so then our library administration track, this is where we landed as of our discussions. And I just wanted to let you know too, I've shared our kind of drafts and discussion with Tracy Cook and with our state librarian, Jenny Stapp, as we've been moving through. And they were both had very complimentary indications of support. Really, this is an innovative but very straightforward way to give the flexibility. And so they were really happy and are really satisfied with this recommendation, especially for library administrators who, we want to have that baseline and then open up the greatest opportunity once someone is renewing their certification. So any other thoughts with the library administration track? I was going to say too, I also, in talking with Tracy, I was kind of worried about the programming part of Aspen with adding this, and it's actually not going to be that as big a deal as I thought. So I was happy to hear that. Okay.
Can I just ask something real quick? I understand what we're talking about right there, but it seems like I don't know how to make it clear, maybe, because or are we saying that for the initial certification only 30 credits? No, right? That's not what we're saying.
No. So for initial certification, 30 of those would be in the library administration category.
Oh, gotcha.
And then the remaining are elective.
Okay. All right, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we can definitely circle back. And as I said, and Jennifer, just so you know, Pam and Robin aren't able to join us today. Just so you know, knew that too, that we weren't waiting for anyone else. And then, we had kind of arrived at staying the course with the voluntary trustee track. And yesterday I was able to issue a certificate for a trustee who completed their certification. So I was very pleased to be able to do that. And they indicated that it had not been a huge burden for them to complete those credits. And that, they were glad to have that opportunity. So then we're back to the staff track. And so I very purposefully constructed this slide, hopefully to make sure that I kind of understood where we landed, that we definitely want to change the requirements, and that there's, the public comment or the, kind of the public feedback is a really split thing between option 1 and 2. And then with the part-time option, I just wanted to check, because I think that what the conversation went to was that it might be confusing or not as straightforward because of the definition of part-time, or a lack of definition of part-time. So I wanted to just kind of put this up as, are we gonna step away from a part-time option, or do we want to talk about that a little bit more? Maybe it's easier to deal with this one first. So maybe a way to ask this is, does anyone feel really strongly that an option for a new track for part-time staff is something that should be forwarded?
Have a quick question. Have you ever, you or maybe Joe before you, dealt with part-timers who were attempting that but had a hard time getting the credits? I mean, I'm just not sure if this is actually a problem or not. And I definitely think it's very hard to define what you were saying and what Tina is saying. That's definitely very hard to define what is part-time. I mean, we have part-timers here that have 4 hours and then we have part-timers that have 30. So it's like anything in between, really. So
right,
that's the really hard part. I would say probably go away from that, but I want to hear if you've ever had like a director contact you to say like, hey, I have this part-timer who was attempting this but can't manage in the time that is allotted for that. I don't know if this is actually a problem, right?
Yeah, to me, it's unclear that it's an actual problem. I think just based on the feedback that we had, it wasn't the 4-year period that was difficult for getting credits, whether it's directors or staff. And in the case of trustees, the 15 credits, it was more so looking at the number of credits in technology in particular, and in collection management and technical services. So it definitely had more to do with the kind of the category requirements rather than the length of time. And I don't have any feedback about part-time staff having difficulty, but that's definitely something that we can ask and dig into a little bit more if we needed to, especially when we're visiting with the Network Advisory Council in February, and just see what thoughts are around that too.
I mean, I would probably say agree with your slide. So just not worry about that.
I have had some part-time staff who have had difficulties getting their credits done, but I think it's mostly been a lack of desire, to be honest. And I like one, I know she's starting her own business. I know she's not going to be here in 4 years. And so I think it has mostly to do with that. So I think not having a part-time option is probably the best, because it's hard to define what part-time is, and I think it could get really tricky. So
Colette, I had just one question, and it to the group. The only thing that I gleaned from all the input was that there seems to be frustration on the technology credit obtaining, and is that something that's easily solvable within Aspen, or should we just reduce that number and add that into the elective bin if that is a real issue for people, that they just don't feel they can get those credits? That's the only thing I really sense towards a difficulty in the staff track, but just curious what others might think.
I mean, looking over the options that we've given, we've dropped it by 5, right? Anyway, so I think that's doable. I mean, I think, and I don't think it has anything to do with putting it into Aspen or anything. It just has to do with what options there are out there. Like it's, like it's pretty easy to get library administration. It's pretty easy to get library service to the public. I also think it's easier to get the collection management ones, but the technology, sometimes it seems like there isn't as much that would qualify. And I think that's what people were talking about mainly. But I think if we drop it to 5, I mean, that that really should be doable in 4 years. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a really important question when it comes to, the number of credits, which is the recommendation that we want to be really clear about. And then what the state library can do to both offer technology credits or provide access to technology credits. And so an example actually of something that's happening right now, Bobby DeMontney and Amelia Kim, lifelong learning librarian in our shared catalog and kind of Montana Library Network technical staff, they're going to be hosting a cohort for basic technology skills learning. So the cohort, people can apply to that. And then at the end of the day, I think people who complete that cohort will have more than 5 credits in technology. I think it's 7 or 8 credits in technology. So I think we can definitely and will definitely work on how can people access that training so that it's not as difficult to get the courses or get the credit. And I think there's another component to that too in helping to better define what does technology mean. Because the cohort that I just mentioned, that's going to be focused on basic technology skills for the individual. So, different components of computers, what's the internet, what's a browser, how, and like effective searching and, using peripheral devices and that sort of thing. So it really is basic technical skills. But we know that, the range of technology types of learning is everything from that to helping patrons with technology devices. So I think if we do a good job we by state library in helping to better define, but then create more opportunities to learn, I think the 5 credits in particular is going to be less of a burden or less of a barrier. And that'll be something that time is the test of for sure. Thank you, Miranda. Yeah, sometimes the things that are the low-hanging fruit that you can get are too basic, especially for staff who are used to using technology in all aspects of their job. So we'll definitely be paying attention to, when we create lists of recommended trainings. I think it's the point well taken that they should be clearly identified with what is like novice and basic, what fits into that more intermediate and then advanced categories. So people are able to choose things that are appropriate to their level of need, and the things that they want to learn to extend their skills. So I did move back to show the two options that we were considering and that we had talked about. And so let's talk about this. Where are your thoughts and kind of inclinations between those two options? Option one, which has the specific credit requirements and categories, and then the other, which is definitely more, it basically just elective space. So I'm really curious to know what your thinking is on these two options, because there's no clear direction from the survey feedback.
I'm probably among the majority then. I'm really on the fence with these. My fear as a director with option 2 is that, for lack of better wording right now, there will be a little more hand holding on my part and having to say, these are the things you should really do. But then again, it could be an absolutely wonderful thing where they could really hone in on the skills they need. So totally on the fence with these. I think they're both great options. Like I said, option 2 worries me a little bit with staff that may need more direction and so more of my time.
Yeah. Go ahead, Miranda.
I'm really torn on it as well, because I like the idea of having to have some credits in each category so it's well-rounded. But like for me personally, I don't ever learn anything from any of the tech credits I take. It's just a filler because I have to take it. So I would like the option to take courses that are actually useful to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Carmen, we're looking at and just kind of where we're leaning or where thoughts are between option 1 and option 2 for the staff track.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I still really like option 1, aka being a rounded person, rounded, and have all the different things. And I understand, like, I mean, the tech stuff is a little difficult, and but if we're dropping it down, I don't know, like, and I understand what Miranda is saying, that they're so basic that you're not learning anything, but also I'm thinking too, technology changes all the time, right? So what if the next new big thing comes around? I don't know what that is, but maybe we do need to learn about that, right? So we can talk to patrons about it. And maybe in that respect, then the state library could be responsible for finding that for us. So we have the option of doing it, and learning about it. I mean, I'm not really interested in a class on Microsoft Word either.
Yeah.
I mean, why would, but if there's something new coming about that we need to know about, then I think that would be valuable. And I think that, I don't know, that's just my little thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead, Tina.
Okay, so since I just started doing this in March and I haven't been certified yet, this might just be from a different perspective. If we were to choose option 2, because I have so many credits already in services to the public and the library administration,
Mhm.
I would probably have already had my 60 credits or be right at that. Which is great, but because I'm at that, I'm not sure I would take the time to keep taking more classes unless they were ones that, I take through the state library and, the lines from Jenny, and you get a credit in the library administration. I do think option 1 does make you be a little bit more accountable, as far as you're still keeping up with it, rather than like having the 60 already and then being like, oh, I don't need to worry about it. So maybe option 1 is going to make people be a little more accountable than just hurrying up and getting them and being done. So like Carmen just said, so if something does change, you're keeping up to date with that.
Mhm.
I just wanted to make a comment also, is that, it is a voluntary certificate for the staff. And the certification process should represent something, that you are rounded. And so I'm leaning towards option 1 just for that reason. That if you want a voluntary certification, you're saying, in prior life, if I wanted to be certified, I had to do, ACLS, ATLS, CPR, to say I'm fully certified. And that just goes back to a basic thing. Yeah, I'm into it and I'm well-rounded. And I don't think that's a bad thing. And it doesn't seem to be onerous, and it does give you 40 hours to explore, your personal goals and the library needs that you have individually at each place. At least I think, but I mean, you guys are on the ground, so I would defer to you in that end.
I think, so I'm writing notes too, because I'm, thinking in terms of the, stating the benefits and any potential costs. But in particular, the benefits of a particular option that we want to recommend. And so, what I'm hearing is, it is important to have a the opportunity for staff to become well-rounded, and a way to do that would be to have requirements that maybe ask them, at a fairly minimal level, to learn in areas that they may not be as comfortable or familiar, but that because of the voluntary nature, and because the number of elective credits are increased, that actually encourages the flexibility and potential specialization that is unique to what that person's learning needs are, or what their library needs them to learn in order to be a highly skilled staff member. Did that make sense? Like I said, I'm writing notes and trying to glean those words that I can use to put into a description of the benefit of the recommendation. Okay. Yeah, if we did a formal poll or something like that, I think as a task force are leaning towards option 1 as a recommendation. And because Pam and Robin aren't here today, that's why, I want to have a chance to re-poll with them, and just make sure that I haven't left out any of those important ideas that we have to describe what this recommendation is. So Jennifer would choose option 1, Tina would choose option 1. So yes, number 1. Sounds good. Okay, so I'll go ahead with that and put together kind of the benefit statement. And this, I think this is going to really meet that spirit of setting a good solid foundation and allowing people to grow from there. Because I was the same as you, really, trying to think about what is that degree of flexibility? And Jennifer, your comment, I think, is really important. If leaving things too open then creates a burden on directors to be more hands-on with a professional learning plan, then that is a cost that's not of benefit to the libraries, especially those that have small staff that are part-time. Everybody is a part-time worker. So what you said made a lot of sense to me too. Okay, so I will put together some language there. And then the overall recommendations, I did change this wording just to, sometimes I'm going to laugh at myself because I put in more words to say simplify when what we really meant was be flexible. So hopefully this doesn't, throw up any red flags, or hopefully this feels pretty good in terms of the wording and the focus. So any other thoughts about the overall recommendations?
Colette, the only thing I was gonna suggest is just on the second time you use to increase flexibility for the voluntary staff track requirements, I would just put to increase flexibility and potentially encourage participation by being able to drop those down, because that's what we want. We want people to participate in that program because it is voluntary.
Yes. Okay. As you know, I like to have thinking and waiting time, just make sure that have a good chance to process together. I'll add that language, and I'll talk more about what we'll do next then. So we don't have any friends who have joined us. Some people are watching the recordings, and so that's a good thing, but it hasn't generated any public comment or other sorts of engagement. So our next steps really are to so in February, the Network Advisory Council will meet, and the recommendations are on the agenda to discuss with the Network Advisory Council. And so I would invite any and all of the members of this task force to, to be available to talk with the NAC when it looks at the recommendations and gives its feedback. So I'll provide information about when that meeting happens, and as you're available and as you'd want to be part of those discussions, that would be the next time that we would probably formally meet as a group. And then, yes, those are online meetings for sure. Some people come in person, but there's always an online meeting option. And we'll know what more about the time on the agenda once we get closer to February. But the other thing, and so that's that date and time. So what I'd like to do is kind of like what I did after our meeting on Monday, is to capture our comments and kind of finalize the recommendations into report. And let's see, when I did, okay, I think I can see what you see on your screens. So basically taking this draft document that I shared with you and then making those adjustments. And then this is kind of the primary communication document that we'll use to have discussions with the NAC, and then kind of add to it as any other feedback comes in. But like I said, I'll make some of the changes, or I'll make the changes that we talked about today, and then circulate it back to you as a through email. And then if there's other comments or anything, if we want to just share those through email, and if you want to just send it to me individually or to the group as a whole, if that sounds okay, that will be kind of our next step. And yeah.
Colette, I had one other comment just on that draft task force recommendation.
Yeah.
I would only add one other word, basically, in under addressing user experience with the Aspen to eliminate barriers to finding and tracking continuing education credits, because I think part of it is also trying to identify credits and what category they're in, or what other people would use as a word. But in addition to tracking, also identifying which category they're in. So, because that would seem to be a concern to people, that it could fit into several different, different categories. So something like that, just that those are barriers that we are aware of, that we're trying to, fix.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yes, I couldn't quite capture what you had said on Monday, and that really is very crystal clear. Okay. So what you'll see from me then is an updated version of this longer report document. And like I was saying earlier, I'm putting together the words to then describe the benefits, any potential costs, and the intended outcomes of the recommendation for the library staff track. But I don't know, that's kind of it, the sum total of what we intended to do. And I have to tell you, I hadn't really thought about this really being a last meeting and how we could tie things up with a bow, other than to send this out and then you can send me back some feedback. But I just want to give everyone an opportunity at this point to share your thoughts about the process that we've had, and any parting comments or other things that maybe we need to poke the NAC about with looking at the recommendations. So this is just kind of open time for each of you to share your summation and thoughts for our work together.
Well, I just want to say it was great opportunity to work with you all, and I'm really happy that we asked other librarians for opinions. So even though maybe sometimes people don't necessarily like surveys, but I mean, we got really good responses, right? And I wouldn't have felt comfortable making decisions without a wider cast of information that than just 6 or 7 of us. So I think that was really good that we did the surveys, and I'm really happy that there was great response to the surveys too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's all, just wanted to reiterate what Carmen mentioned, that been fun to meet folks and find out what's going on a little bit around the state and see how people on the ground are and what their problems are and what they're trying to deal with their staff. So it always helps me so that I can give better input when I'm asked things. So want to express my appreciation for everybody's input.
I know Tina's hand is up. I don't know if you wanted to jump in, or Miranda or Jennifer too.
Sorry, that was just up from before.
That's okay.
I would ditto everybody. This has been a great learning experience. So thanks for all the good comments and helping me look at things in a little different perspective myself. So appreciate it.
I guess I'm going to echo everyone else today. I agree, this was great. And I really like the recommendations we've put forward. I think it provides a lot more opportunity for people to focus in on skills that they use at their library and that they need honing somewhat. So yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity.
Well, and it really, very sincerely, it's been a pleasure to work with all of you. It's something I take really to heart, is kind of hopefully honoring your time and your expertise with the types of materials and the processes that we use. So if there's anything that, I could improve upon for supporting work like this, I am always open to feedback and just a conversation about how we've done our work. So I can't thank you enough for all of the time and effort that you've put in. And like I said, I'll send out the draft report, and if you just give me a response back with any other thoughts or other things to consider, and then I will make sure that you have the invitation to the Network Advisory Council meeting in February as well. And we'll just continue to track how this work goes forward to then the commission, and then how we're able to implement the recommendations. When we do this work every 10 or 12 years or so, it's I think it's sometimes easy for staff to forget how much brain power and just how much thinking has to go into a significant change. And I think that this group has been so thoughtful and so effective in representing their various perspectives and needs. And so that, I think, is a really important part of any process like this that does have statewide reach and impact, and that hopefully at the end of the day makes it not just a nice to do thing in the case of some of the voluntary certification options, but that it is a much more enriched experience for the directors who must be certified as well. So thank you.
I have a random question, Colette.
Yeah.
Is there a way as a director, to track where staff are with their credits? I've never been able to find one, but that doesn't mean there isn't one. Aside from just asking them where they are.
Right. So the probably the non-technical or the least technical way to do that is to have the individual download their CE record and give that to you.
Okay.
And then I think that's a question that's actually come up that I've had just with how we treat user information with Aspen.
Yeah.
Because I can also pull that CE record and provide it to the director. So that's the other non-technical way, is you email me and say, hey, can you share so-and-so's CE record with me? And then I would just send it to you.
Yeah, well, I'm sure I could ask my staff. It's just, I guess it's something I'll just add to our procedures, and we'll just have that done monthly. So
yeah, and seriously, if you email me, it just takes me a few minutes to pull that.
Okay, thanks, Colette.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. We are so efficient. Once we get the ball rolling, the machine just turns itself. So thank you so much for that as well. I'll send the recording and you'll see that report probably tomorrow morning. And just have very merry holidays and stay safe and warm. All right. Thank you. Let's see. Thanks, Miranda.